Mia woke up with her mouth dry, her head pounding, and a dull ache in her shoulders like she'd been dancing with bricks strapped to her back. The hotel room was too bright. Her eyes blinked open slowly, registering gold-trimmed curtains, a silk comforter, and the faint scent of lavender and expensive whiskey. She didn't remember falling asleep here. Wherever here was. Her body felt sore in all the wrong places, and when she turned her head, groaning, she froze. Victoria Sterling was lying next to her. Her boss, the CEO, asleep. Her dark hair a little messy, one arm flung across the sheets like she didn't have a single care in the world. Mia's brain screamed at her to move, to make sense of this, to run, but her body refused to cooperate. Instead, she slowly pushed the blankets off and sat up, very carefully. Her heart stuttered. There, glinting in the sunlight that poured through the window, was a silver band wrapped snug around her left ring finger.
No.
No, 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 no. Mia stared at the ring like it might start explaining itself if she glared hard enough. She could almost hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. What the hell, she whispered. Victoria stirred. Mia turned her head just in time to see those impossibly cool blue eyes blink open. She looked around, groggy, confused, and then her gaze landed on Mia. They stared at each other. The silence was thick enough to choke. Mia? Victoria's voice was hoarse. Sexy, if Mia wasn't currently dying inside. Good morning, Mia croaked. Victoria sat up, clutching the sheets to her chest like she was suddenly aware they were both very much undressed. She looked at Mia, then down at her own hand. Another ring. What the? I don't know, Mia said, panic rising. I don't remember anything after the casino. Maybe the karaoke bar. We were drinking, Victoria said flatly. Too much. That bartender was very enthusiastic about tequila. And the shots, Mia added. And the dancing on the fountain. God. Victoria closed her eyes. Tell me we didn't, Mia swallowed. There's a ring on my finger, Victoria. Mine too. Victoria stood, grabbing a robe from the chair. She paced, then stopped suddenly.
Wait.
The chapel.
What?
That weird little chapel with the pink neon heart. You dared me to walk in and say we were getting married. No, you dared yourself, Mia corrected. You said, and I quote, "Let's make it official, sweetheart. We're clearly soulmates." Victoria ran both hands down her face.
Shit.
I think we signed something. There were papers, Mia said, barely breathing. And a man in a glittery tux. And plastic rings. Oh my God. We got married. Mia nodded, stunned. In Vegas.
Drunk.
To each other. They stared at each other, horrified. And then Victoria said, "This cannot get out. We need to annul it. Immediately."
Right.
Of course, Mia said, even though her stomach twisted at the word. Annul. Like it never happened. But something had happened. Something that had nothing to do with drunken dares or tequila. Mia remembered the look in Victoria's eyes when she said she didn't believe in love anymore. The way she'd smiled, soft, almost shy, when Mia wiped glitter off her cheek. The way their hands had intertwined when they'd laughed too hard to breathe. Mia wasn't sure what was real, but she knew it wasn't nothing. Victoria was already on her phone, dialing someone. We'll get the lawyers on this first thing Monday. It'll be a quiet process. No one needs to know. Right, Mia said again. But her fingers brushed the ring one more time. And for some reason she didn't take it off. The private jet back to New York was silent. Not the comfortable kind. The tense, filled with unspoken panic and accidental glances at matching rings kind. Mia sat rigidly in her seat, hands folded in her lap like a schoolgirl trying to pretend her life wasn't unraveling into a romantic comedy nightmare. Victoria, as always, looked composed. Dark slacks, pressed blouse, eyes hidden behind designer sunglasses, even inside the cabin. But her posture was stiff, and the muscle in her jaw ticked every few seconds. We'll have the papers started as soon as the office opens, she said, breaking the silence. It'll be clean.
Quiet.
No one needs to know what happened. Right, Mia said. Except we're legally married, and I have a copy of the license in my purse. Which you will shred, Victoria said. Immediately. Mia didn't respond. Her fingers twisted the ring on her finger again. She hadn't taken it off. Neither had Victoria. It was just a mistake, Victoria said more softly. Vegas does that to people. Sure, Mia said. Mistake. But her chest ached a little, because she remembered how Victoria had looked at her that night, not like a boss, not like a drunk woman, but like someone who saw her. And that wasn't something Mia could forget, no matter how quickly they tried to erase it. Monday morning was worse. Back in the sleek glass tower of Sterling Global, surrounded by cold concrete, powerful people, and silent judgment, Mia tried to act normal. She typed emails, answer calls, brought Victoria her coffee exactly the way she liked it. Miss Sterling, she said at one point, and Victoria looked up sharply, something in her expression unreadable. Thank you, Mia, she replied, softer than usual. Their hands brushed when Mia handed her a file. And that was all it took, one touch. Electricity.
Heat.
Memory. You kissed her. You married her. You saw her cry in a karaoke bar at 3 a.m. We need to schedule a meeting with HR, Victoria said abruptly, looking away. About travel reimbursements. Right, Mia said, trying to sound casual. Not about our surprise marriage or anything. Victoria's eyes snapped to her. Mia, I'm kidding, Mia said quickly. Mostly. Silence. Then Victoria stood and walked to the window, arms crossed tightly. This cannot affect the company. It already is, Mia said quietly. I can barely breathe when I walk into your office. Victoria turned slowly. Her expression had softened. Is that my fault? No, Mia said. It's not your fault you're breathtaking when you're not barking orders at me. Victoria's mouth parted. You think I'm breathtaking? That night in Vegas, Mia said, stepping closer. You told me you didn't know how to let anyone in, that you were tired of being alone. I was drunk, but honest. So were you, Victoria whispered. And I remember you saying I deserved someone who saw past the title. I still believe that. Another pause. Mia, Victoria said, her voice barely audible. I can't be who you think I am. Then let me see who you really are, Mia said. No more pretending. No more calling this a mistake like it meant nothing. Their eyes locked. The tension sizzled between them, too thick to ignore. But before anything more could be said, a sharp knock interrupted them. A junior associate peeked in. Miss Sterling? The board is ready for you. Of course, Victoria said instantly, her walls slamming back into place. Thank you. Mia stepped back, face neutral again.
The door closed.
Victoria hesitated, then looked back over her shoulder. Mia? Yes. Don't take the ring off. Not yet. And then she was gone, leaving Mia standing there, heart racing, fingers unconsciously tightening around the silver band on her finger. Tuesday started normally. Or, at least, as normal as it could when you were secretly married to your boss and pretending to be her assistant again. Mia filed reports, sat in on meetings, took notes while Victoria ran the room with her signature poise and control. But every time Victoria said Mia, every time their eyes met, it felt different, heavier. And there were moments, tiny flashes, where Mia swore she saw it in Victoria too. That same pulse of memory, of want. At lunch, Mia passed by the executive lounge and paused. Victoria was alone, staring at her phone. Then, as if sensing Mia's presence, she looked up. Their eyes locked. Victoria's expression softened. She set her phone down slowly. Come in. Come in, Victoria repeated. Mia stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind her. She felt it again, the shift in the air. Victoria stood, walked to the window. I haven't stopped thinking about that night, she said quietly. Same, Mia admitted. It's like it's on loop. The way you laughed. The chapel. That ridiculous Elvis impersonator. The things I told you. Victoria turned to her. I don't say things like that. Ever. I know, Mia said. But I'm glad you did. Victoria took a step closer.
Her voice was lower now.
I meant it. All of it. Even the part where you said you didn't want to be alone anymore? Victoria's eyes shimmered. Especially that part. Another step. They were barely a foot apart. Mia's breath caught. Then why are you trying to erase it? Because I'm terrified. Of what? Of losing control. Of wanting something I can't have. Of being seen. Mia reached out, gently touched Victoria's hand. I see you. A long pause. Then Victoria's fingers curled around hers, tentative, searching. What do we do, Mia?
We stop pretending, Mia said.
At least when we're alone. Victoria nodded slowly. Okay. She leaned in, not kissing, just letting her forehead rest against Mia's. You make me feel unsteady. Good. Mia smiled. You've been too steady for too long. A knock shattered the moment. They pulled apart instantly. Yes. Victoria called. Miss Sterling. Her secretary's voice came through the door. The CFO's here for your 2 o'clock. Tell him I'll be right there. She turned back to Mia. Her voice dropped. Come to my place tonight. Mia blinked. Is that a request or a command? It's a question, Victoria said, almost shyly. Will you? Mia didn't hesitate. Yes. Victoria gave the smallest of smiles, a hint of relief in her eyes. 7 p.m. And then she walked away, heels sharp, posture perfect, but Mia could see the tension in her shoulders. The vulnerability. The ache. And for the first time since waking up in that Vegas bed, Mia didn't feel lost. She felt wanted. And that was far more dangerous. Mia stepped into Victoria's upscale yet tastefully minimalist apartment just as the clock hit 7:30. The door closed softly behind her, setting a hush over the air. The apartment smelled faintly of citrus cleaner and sandalwood, modern, elegant, and achingly unfamiliar as a private space for her boss, the woman who'd held the world at arm's length for as long as Mia had known her. Either side had stayed professional, until that night in Vegas broke every rule and rewrote everything they thought they knew about themselves. Now they both stood in that fragile space that crackled with electricity and fear. Victoria closed the door, then turned toward Mia, arms crossed defensively across her torso despite her luxurious black blouse. The living room's dim glow came from a single lamp behind a large sectional couch. On the coffee table, a bottle of red wine waited half-empty, 2 glasses, and a plate of fruit and artisanal cheese, an invitation wrapped in careful restraint. A single candle flickered in a sand-colored holder. They stood there inches apart. Neither moved to fill the distance. The air trembled. Victoria finally spoke, voice low. Mia, thank you for coming. Mia braced herself. You ask. More than once, Victoria admitted, but before Mia could respond, the air trembled again. Different this time, sharper. An apology, unsaid, hung between them. Mia shifted, reaching unsteadily for the couch, seating herself without invitation. Her heart thudded in her chest, hard, fast, tipped with anticipation. Victoria sat beside her a beat later. There was still space, not just between them, but for the tension to stretch and crack and reshape itself. They faced each other in silence. The bottle of wine between them beckoned. Mia reached for a glass. Victoria's hand brushed hers, then withdrew, her eyes dark and unsettled. They talked first about trivialities, the fruit, the flickering streetlights beyond the window. It felt like a dance, each cautiously testing the waters. Mia felt her fingers trembling as she tucked a lock of hair behind her ear, suddenly aware of how close she was to Victoria, her fingers accidentally grazing the curve of her arm. The contact sent a flare of warmth through her body. Victoria stiffened. Her lips parted, as though she was going to say something, but instead she rose abruptly. I need a moment, she said, her voice hard to recognize, less CEO, more vulnerable. Mia watched her go into the kitchen. The hard lamp cast stark shadows over Victoria's shoulder blades as she turned from the counter. She looked small and raw and utterly destabilizing. Mia exhaled. She knew why she hadn't removed the ring yet. Victoria returned with 2 new glasses of wine, white this time. She offered one to Mia, their fingers touching again. Mia accepted. They sat close, their knees almost touching. "No tequila tonight," Mia said quietly. Victoria smiled, small and sad. "Definitely no tequila." Mia let her shield slip. "Victoria, can we talk about last night? About why I'm still here. About why I want to be." Victoria's breath caught. She turned, cupping their wine glass between two hands. "I thought I could erase it. I thought it was a chore, a mistake. But when I went to bed, when I held you, I realized how much I want you." She locked eyes with Mia, tender and intense. "Not just in Vegas, not just the celebration. Every day, at my side." Mia's heart thundered in her throat. She let tears prick her eyes unexpectedly. "I'm terrified," she said softly, "because I've been your employee for 2 years. I've watched you from behind a clipboard. And what if this is just another mistake I can't cover up? What if I lose everything, my job, my dreams, because of this?" She pressed her palm into Victoria's knee. "But I don't want to lose you more than anything." Victoria exhaled, leaning closer, their shoulders brushing. "Then let me hear you say it. Out loud." Mia swallowed. This was it, the moment where borders could dissolve or snap. Her voice trembled, but the words came clear. "I want you now and always." Gasps. The universe tilted. Victoria closed her eyes for a heartbeat, then leaned in and kissed Mia gently. A start, a searing, yearning press of lips. But she didn't pull away. The kiss deepened, urgent and tremulous, her hands cupping Mia's face with such delicate intent Mia thought she would crumble. Time collapsed. Everything became the sensation of falling, into each other, into trust, into something neither dared speak aloud yet. They broke apart, foreheads pressed together, breathing in sync. Victoria whispered hoarsely, "You're breathtaking, Mia Rodriguez." Mia's pulse skyrocketed. She returned the words in a whisper. "So are you." They lingered there, letting the truth fill the space between them. The night outside stretched endless and free. Eventually, Victoria spoke again. "Let me show you I'm serious. Not just tonight, every night. And no control, no corporate walls. Can we do it?" Mia paused. She let her wedding ring catch the light on her finger. "I've already said yes," she replied, a smile trembling in her eyes. Victoria's face shone with something new. Relief. Joy. A tremor of hope. She leaned in and kissed Mia again, this time fierce and fire-hot, the taste of wine and longing and promises on her lips. They stayed wrapped in that kiss, the boundaries of boss and employee evaporating, replaced by something so raw and fierce it echoed in their bones. In that moment, the world outside their apartment didn't exist. Only the two of them, naked, yearning, vulnerable, and undeniably in love. Back at the office Monday morning, the air felt different. Mia stood in the elevator button-laden hallway outside Victoria's glass-walled office, clutching a stack of printed reports, feeling the weight of her wedding ring's silent declaration tucked inside her blazer pocket. She was on autopilot, her heels clicking on polished marble, her posture impeccable as always, but nothing about today was the same. The door slid open with a clinical whisper and she entered the office, stopping in the threshold just long enough to force calm into her chest. Victoria looked up, eyes briefly softening before her guard reassembled behind the professional facade. She cleared her throat. "We need to talk about the Verona deal." Mia took a breath. Of course. Behind them, the CEO's office felt too small for what they both knew had happened, too large for what they were trying to contain. As they walked toward the conference room, their elbows brushed. Electricity. That single touch made Mia's heartbeat slam against her sternum. She swallowed. Victoria's jaw tightened, but she didn't withdraw. In the boardroom, under bright lights and unsmiling colleagues, Victoria gave instructions with laser-sharp precision, as though nothing unusual had transpired. Mia took notes as always, allowed her mind to drift to the memory of Victoria's voice last night, soft, unguarded, full of longing, before snapping back to reality when the moderator asked her a question. She answered crisply, but inside, she trembled. Who were they now? Each glance at Victoria made her pulse fire. No one noticed. They were caught in the momentum of meetings and market projections while Mia's thoughts raced between stolen moments and the ring inside her pocket. When the day finally ended and half the staff had left, Victoria summoned Mia back into her office. The room glowed in early evening light. Victoria laid a file folder on the desk. It was labeled Verona, Confidential. "We need to go through this together," she began, but her voice faltered when Mia touched her hand. "We also need to answer some questions." Mia looked up. "What kind of questions?" Victoria squared her shoulders. "About us, specifically, about us as a married couple." Mia's breath caught. "You told HR?" Victoria looked away. "They found the license online." "No," Mia shook her head. "That happened in Vegas." She realized with pain that she wanted Victoria to claim it, defend her, to be hers. Victoria looked back, her face pained. "They're questioning how this affects my leadership. They're worried about public image." "And you?" Mia whispered. "What do you worry about?" Victoria hesitated, then closed the distance. She cupped Mia's face gently, thumb brushing her cheekbone. "That I'll lose you." Mia's breath hitched. She pressed into the hand. "I said yes in Vegas. I still mean it. I want you." "Then we fight," Victoria said. "Together." Mia felt torn. Her heart wanted to leap, but her mind weighed the risk. Their worlds, corporate and personal, had collided. The tension twisted in her stomach, desire versus consequence. Victoria's voice was firm now. "I'll address this with the board. Public perception. Privacy versus transparency. I can explain that we married on impulse, but we're committed. Will you stand by me?" Mia's heart thundered. She swallowed. "Yes." The word echoed with danger and certainty. Victoria's relief flickered. She brushed Mia's hair behind her ear, an impulsive touch, taboo and electrifying. They stood like that for a long moment, swaying between worlds. At the door, Victoria cleared her throat. "Get home safe," she said, but the words trembled. "Dinner tonight?" Mia hesitated. "Yes." Victoria's lips curved. Triumph, vulnerability, and longing swirled in her gaze. She closed the door behind Mia softly, leaving her standing alone in the hallway, heart pounding, torn between what she wanted and what she feared. Mia woke the next morning to 3 emails marked urgent and a calendar invite for a 9 a.m. meeting with HR. Her chest tightened as she stared at the subject lines. Internal review request, marital status confirmation, confidential discussion. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, her heart thudding a sick rhythm. The ring, still on her finger, flashed in the morning light. A symbol of a drunken night in Vegas, yes, but also of something deeper, something real that neither of them had dared put into words. She didn't take it off. She couldn't. Instead, she put on a structured navy blazer, pinned her hair back, and arrived at the sterling global tower with shoulders squared and chin lifted. She passed coworkers who greeted her with polite nods, unaware of the storm boiling just beneath the surface. When the elevator doors opened on the executive floor, Mia saw Victoria already waiting near the conference room, flanked by 2 HR reps and a corporate lawyer. The sight of her, immaculate in a steel gray suit, hair swept into a precise chignon, eyes sharp despite the exhaustion in their depths, made Mia's breath catch. They locked eyes for a second. It wasn't enough to calm her, but it was something. Inside the room, the air was heavy. The HR director began with a prepared statement, reciting clauses and company policies about workplace relationships, power dynamics, and the potential for conflict of interest. Mia sat perfectly still, hands folded on her lap, the ring cool against her skin. "We understand this marriage was unexpected," the director said, looking pointedly at Mia, then at Victoria. "However, given the legal nature of the union, we must assess the implications for both parties, as well as the company's reputation." Victoria's voice, when she spoke, was calm and deliberate. "We are aware of the concerns. We are taking steps to manage this situation transparently and responsibly." Mia kept her gaze fixed on the table, feeling every word pressed down like a stone. A dozen questions followed. Had the relationship existed prior to the trip? Was there any sign of favoritism? Had any inappropriate behavior occurred on company time? Mia answered honestly, her voice steady, even as her palms began to sweat.
No.
Nothing happened until Vegas. There was no relationship before that night. The silence after that was deafening. One of the board representatives raised an eyebrow. But now... Victoria glanced at Mia before speaking. Now, we are in the process of understanding what this means for us.
Personally.
Professionally. The phrase hung in the air, delicate and dangerous. The meeting ended with a set of temporary agreements. They would disclose their status to legal, avoid public appearances together, and undergo a third-party review of all executive decisions involving Mia. It felt clinical, like a surgery meant to cut feelings out. When they stepped out into the hallway, Victoria didn't speak. Not at first. Then, in a quiet voice meant only for Mia, she said, "Dinner tonight. My place." It wasn't a question. Mia nodded. That evening, the city outside Victoria's penthouse shimmered with golden twilight as Mia stepped inside. The room was lit softly, a bottle of wine already open on the table, takeout containers set neatly beside crystal glasses. Victoria stood by the window, staring out at the skyline, her shoulders tense. "Didn't feel like cooking," she said without turning. "Too many variables today." Mia approached slowly, setting her bag down, unbuttoning her jacket. "You were amazing in there," she said. "You handled it. I shouldn't have had to." Victoria turned, eyes flashing. "I put you in this position. I dragged you into my mess." "You didn't drag me anywhere," Mia said firmly. "I chose to be there. I'm choosing to be here." Victoria studied her for a long moment, then reached for her hand. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted. "Not like this. Not when everything's at risk." "Then let's do it scared," Mia whispered. "Let's do it real." They ate on the couch, legs brushing, laughter bubbling up unexpectedly over stories from college, terrible exes, and the absurdity of marriage licenses filed in the middle of the night by someone dressed like Elvis. When the wine was gone, and the city outside had gone navy blue, Victoria leaned in. Her kiss was soft this time, exploratory. Like a question. Mia answered with her mouth, her hands, her breath. They undressed slowly, reverently. Nothing rushed. Nothing hidden. In Victoria's bed, under sheets that smelled like lavender and courage, they touched like women learning each other from scratch. Mia traced the planes of Victoria's body like poetry, whispered her name like a secret, and when Victoria moaned into her shoulder, Mia felt something break open inside her, something vulnerable and breathtaking, and irrevocably theirs. After, they lay tangled together in the half-dark. Victoria's fingers idly traced circles on Mia's hip. "I've never let anyone this close," she confessed. "Not really. Not where it matters." Mia turned her head, pressing a kiss to Victoria's temple. "I'll be gentle." "Don't be," Victoria whispered. "Just be true." They fell asleep wrapped in each other, and for the first time since that whirlwind night in Vegas, Mia felt like maybe, just maybe, this could be the beginning of something real. Not perfect, not easy, but real. Mia arrived at the office Monday morning feeling as though she were stepping onto a tightrope, suspended above a yawning void of judgment and uncertainty. The ring on her finger had become a subtle, solid weight of commitment and consequence, and she could already feel its truth pulsing with each breath she took. She passed colleagues in the crowded foyer who smiled and greeted her, oblivious to the delicate lie she carried under her blouse. She rode the elevator up to the executive floor with her usual composure, but when she stepped off and entered Victoria's domain, everything shifted. Victoria stood behind her desk, her stance impeccable, yet her eyes flicked to Mia with a softness that made Mia's heart thud. Today, they would begin the third-party review process, a private but invasive scrutiny of their relationship and its impact. Mia's stomach tightened as they walked together toward the boardroom, their gloves of professionalism slipping with every step that brought them closer to acknowledging the truth that was already between them. The director of compliance greeted them with a stack of forms and protocols that felt clinical and judgmental. Mia signed document after document while Victoria responded to pointed questions, her tone unwavering. Mia answered only when addressed. But when a junior associate made eye contact with her, silent empathy passed between them, an acknowledgement that love and loyalty often defied neat categorization. The review lasted nearly 3 hours, during which Mia's hands trembled not from fear of repercussions but from the beauty of what it meant to stand beside Victoria, together. When it finally ended, they were asked to maintain strict separation at public functions and adhere to a mentorship agreement that ensured Mia's professional development was evaluated independently of Victoria's influence. It was a reality check, a framework designed to stabilize a relationship as fragile and fiery as theirs. But walking back into Victoria's office, with no one else in the hall, Victoria reached out and took Mia's hand, holding it tight enough to remind her that they were united despite every rule. Their eyes met, and no words were needed. They knew the fight ahead would be a battle of perceptions. That night, they met at a small rooftop bar belonging to a mutual friend. The city spread below them, lights mirroring the stars, and the air tasted of possibility and fear. Victoria wore a silk dress that fluttered in the breeze. Mia wore confidence she'd never admitted to herself. They sat close, talking softly about their day, the review, the world that felt both oppressive and malleable under their joined will. Neither spoke of the wedding license, now sealed by law. It didn't need mention. They carried its truth in every shared breath. Victoria placed her hand on Mia's knee as a server brought their drinks, 2 highballs with citrus garnish, and their connection shimmered under moonlight. "They understand," Victoria said softly. "They see that this is real." Mia's breath caught. "And you?" "I'm terrified," Victoria admitted. "But I'm not going back."
Not now.
Mia slid off her seat and rested her head against Victoria's shoulder. "Then we won't either." They kissed, in a small silent declaration that said more than words or legal documents ever could. When they parted, Victoria brushed a strand of Mia's hair behind her ear. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "I'll announce my intent to make this permanent. To include you in my personal life, publicly, officially." Mia lifted her head, startled at the promise. "Are you sure?" "With you," Victoria said simply. "I'm certain." They finished their drink slowly, savoring each sip as though branding the memory into their skin. They walked home through quiet streets, avoiding cameras, choosing carriage pathways over TV news. In Victoria's apartment, they lay together beneath sheets and candlelight, whispering possibilities about where love might take them. Victoria traced Mia's jaw with her thumb. "Promise me you'll always stay, even when the world pushes back." Mia closed her eyes. "I promise you everything." Outside, the city trembled with life, but inside, their hearts settled on a shared pulse that said, "We're in this, even when it's dangerous, even when it hurts, even when we must fight for every inch of space we carve for us." And for the first time, Mia believed that love, messy, forbidden, powerful, might just be worth everything. Marathon steps had been taken. The boardroom battle was halfway won. But their greatest test loomed, and together, they were ready to face it. They woke to sunlight slipping through sheer curtains, warm and insistent, like a promise and a reckoning all at once. Mia rolled over, cautious, as if touching Victoria might shatter the fragile peace that had settled between them after their rooftop confession. But Victoria's arm slid around her waist, her lips pressed to Mia's hair in a gentle brush of morning intimacy. "Morning," she whispered, and Mia felt her heart uncoil. It wasn't perfect. There were briefs on the desk downstairs, glass towers beyond the windows. But in that moment, the world narrowed to sheets, whispers, and the steady rhythm of breath against skin. Mia sat up, resting her head on Victoria's shoulder. Her fingers traced the new tattoo she'd had inked in Vegas on a dare, the coordinates of the chapel where they married, barely visible under the sheets. Victoria followed her gaze. "You should show me," she murmured. Mia pulled the sheet aside and guided Victoria's hand to the tiny script near her hip, then leaned into Victoria's touch as though it was the only refuge she'd ever needed. Victoria's voice trembled. It's beautiful, she said. Mia smiled. So are you. They lay tangled, letting words fade into silence, until the clock announced it was time to return to both their worlds. The board is meeting today, Victoria said, voice soft with steel. My public statement goes live tonight. I need you by my side. Mia shifted, the weight on her finger waking again. It was more than paper and law now. It was commitment, defiance, tender ferocity. She climbed from the bed, Victoria trailing her with a hand on her waist. They dressed carefully, deliberately. Business by day, love by choice outside of those hours. No labels, no pretenses, but undeniable truth. They left the apartment together, fingertips brushing until their palms found each other. In the car, Victoria's hand tightened around Mia's. Whatever happens today, she said, I want you to know I won't let this go. I don't want just paperwork, Mia. I want you. Mia swallowed the lump in her throat. I know, she whispered, and I won't run. The boardroom felt colder than usual, its walls gleaming with polished skepticism. Victoria strode in alone at first, then Mia followed, both aware of the silent gasp their presence elicited. Victoria spoke without hesitation, articulate and unflappable, announcing her intent to publicly recognize her marriage, affirming her commitment to both company and partner. Mia sat by her side, heart pounding, as the board absorbed each word. Questions came about optics, market impact, internal morale. Victoria answered with clarity, conviction, and unwavering regard for Mia. Every time their eyes met, Mia felt a surge of warmth and pride, as if their love itself was lighting the room. They left with the board's cautious approval and a plan for a public statement later that evening in the atrium with employees. When the building emptied, Victoria exhaled, leaning on Mia as they walked through the silent halls. You were incredible, Mia said. So were you. They paused in an empty corridor, and Victoria pressed a finger to Mia's lips. Come home with me, she whispered. Mia nodded, relief spilling through her. That night, in the atrium flooded with warm light and low murmurs, Victoria stood before her employees, her voice steady, eyes shining. She introduced Mia not as her assistant, but as her wife, her partner, her unequivocal choice. The room was still, then broke into applause, gentle, but fierce in its acceptance. Mia's heart stuttered with gratitude and love. Later, as they left through the side door to avoid chaos, Victoria slipped her hand into Mia's. We did it, she said softly.
Together.
We did, Mia echoed. They walked side by side into the night, lights from the city skyline colliding with their silhouettes. At Victoria's apartment, they didn't speak of tomorrow. They didn't need to. They held each other close, kissed the ring finger like a vow renewed. I love you, Victoria whispered. Always, Mia replied. And in the quiet aftermath of their triumph, they discovered that love, fierce, risky, vulnerable, wasn't just worth fighting for. It was the only thing worth having. The morning after the public announcement came, with a muted serenity. Mia awoke first, the ring heavy on her finger and warm against her skin, a tangible reminder that love could defy protocol and expectation. She watched Victoria sleep beside her, her eyelashes feathered against pale cheeks, her expression peaceful, almost unguarded, and felt an ache of tenderness so strong it nearly brought tears to her eyes. She brushed a strand of hair from Victoria's forehead and smiled, marveling that after all the chaos, they could find this fragile, honest calm. Eventually, Victoria stirred, blinking against the sunlight, her hand searching for Mia's and entwining their fingers with a sense of quiet triumph. They shared a soft, lingering kiss before rising together. Neither spoke of breakfast nor meetings, only of how good it felt to wake up next to each other, without guilt or fear. But the day ahead would bring new challenges. The board's approval came with conditions, quarterly disclosures, optional transfers, sensitivity training for upper management, and a mandatory corporate newsletter item highlighting new leadership values. The market responded cautiously at first. Share prices dipped slightly, then stabilized as investor confidence balanced between risk and the CEO's unwavering conviction. Mia joined Victoria at midday for a meeting with the PR team, reviewing the memo that would go out later that afternoon. Their collaboration felt different now, partners rather than boss and assistant, and each glance across the table carried unspoken encouragement. When the newsletter hit inboxes, responses were mixed. Congratulations from overseas offices, skepticism from analysts, curiosity from domestic shareholders. Victoria read the feedback aloud over lunch. Some of this is cynical, but there are genuine messages too, she muttered. Mia reached across the table and touched her hand. Your honesty matters, she said. And your strength makes people listen. Victoria nodded, eyes soft but resolute. That evening, Victoria attended a high-profile donor gala in Manhattan. She moved through the crowd with grace, Mia at her side, no longer hidden. They answered questions together, fielded occasional surprised looks from socialites accustomed to secretive power dynamics, and held each other's gaze through it all. Victoria introduced Mia not as my assistant, but my wife. The words reverberated through the room like a declaration of revolution. Some applauded politely. Others whispered. But most of all, the air shifted around them, slightly lighter, more hopeful. Later, as they stepped into the cool night, they shared a private moment in a tucked-away courtyard. Victoria held Mia close. You still up for this? She asked. Every single day, Mia answered. Then let me love you loudly, Victoria whispered. They kissed beneath moonlight and lantern glow, their silhouettes merging against the cityscape. When they returned home, triumphant yet gentle, Mia nestled into Victoria's chest. Victoria cradled her, running fingers through her hair. In that quiet moment, away from lights and obligations, they reaffirmed their commitment. Loving openly isn't easy, but hiding was never an option. And as they fell asleep together, fingers intertwined and hearts beating in steady accord, they knew that whatever storms tomorrow brought, they'd face them together, fearless, fortified, in love. They woke in sunlight tangled together, the city noise a distant hum beneath heavy curtains. Mia pressed a kiss to Victoria's shoulder, heartbeat still echoing with the triumph of the night before. But as their lips met, Victoria's phone buzzed, a terse message from her board liaison. Private meeting 2 p.m. today. Urgent. Victoria stiffened, eyes flickering with uncertainty and resolve. Mia traced her fingertips along Victoria's spine. What is it? She asked softly. Victoria swallowed. There's concern about market perception. Shareholders want assurances this won't distract from growth. Mia's stomach clenched, but she nodded. We'll handle it together. They showered side by side in silence, gathering strength from each other. Business-appropriate attire hid wedding rings and suppressed smiles, but nothing could erase the confidence in their shared walk to work. The tension on the elevator ride was tempered by their hands clasping where no one could see. At the boardroom, Victoria faced senior executives and financiers, Mia seated in the front row, silent support, forbidden but powerful. The presentation was brutal, pointed questions, cautious optimism, veiled skepticism. Many spoke of precedent, bias, external perception. Victoria responded with steel and grace. My wife is my partner in life, and I trust her professional judgment completely. Our personal commitment steers us toward even stronger collaboration, not away from it. Mia's chest tightened with pride as cameras flashed in the hallway. The board's verdict, continued conditional approval, pending quarterly updates and independent performance reviews, plus a public investor statement reinforcing commitment to transparency. They left the room together, the weight lifted and yet still present. Victoria paused in the hall, turning to Mia. I couldn't do this without you. She cupped Mia's cheek, thumb brushing tears that neither could hide. Mia swallowed. I won't leave you. They returned to work, navigating calls and emails with reclaimed purpose. But by late afternoon, exhaustion hit. Mia texted Victoria, Meet me on the rooftop at sunset?
Please.
Victoria's reply came instantly. On my way. On the rooftop, the sun fell blood orange behind city buildings, turning sky and concrete into molten magic. Victoria waited, leaning against the railing, fingers twisting a wine glass. Mia approached, wine in hand. They held breath as the sun slid under the horizon. Then Victoria spoke. We survived presentations and skepticism. I wish this could be easy for us. Mia stepped closer. We made it through because we have each other. Let tomorrow bring whatever it wants. We're real. Victoria dropped the wine glass into Mia's hand and wrapped her arms around her. They kissed with the kind of tenderness that says we chose this love, whatever it takes. After long, quiet minutes, Mia whispered, "Promise me we'll keep choosing each other." Victoria smiled against her hair.
Every
Single
day.
They remained linked through twilight, as skyscrapers blinked to life around them, a silent testament to their pledge. Love against the odds, chosen and reaffirmed in every sunset, every step, every heartbeat. The week blurred into the kind of relentless momentum neither Mia nor Victoria had anticipated. Every morning, they moved through the glass towers with a quiet confidence that came from having chosen each other in full sight. Yet every evening, exhaustion weighed heavily in their bones, emotional labor steeped in love, crisis, and hope. By Saturday, Mia realized she had to breathe. She suggested a retreat to the city's botanical garden, a hidden sanctuary of orchids and quiet benches, just to remind themselves of ordinary beauty. They arrived at midday. Sunlight filtered through leaves, painting mottled patterns on pathways. As they walked hand in hand, the world felt softer, less urgent. They paused by a lily pond where koi glided lazily. Mia turned to Victoria. "There's something I want to do," she said, slightly breathless. Victoria tilted her head in question. Mia knelt by the water's edge and pulled the small velvet box from her pocket, the one with the real ring she'd held onto since Vegas, tucked away until now. She opened it, and when Victoria gasped, Mia whispered, "I don't want to be married by accident. I want to marry you on purpose." The ring inside was simple, elegant, a promise both private and profound, diamonds nestled in a band of white gold, delicate and intentional. Victoria's eyes glistened. "Mia," she began, voice thick with emotion. The koi splashed gently, the breeze stirring petals around them. "Will you marry me for real this time?" Mia stood and took the ring. She smiled through tears. "Yes," she whispered, voice trembling with love and certainty. They embraced by the pond, sealing their intention in a kiss that tasted of trust earned and futures embraced. That evening, they gathered a small circle, closest colleagues, a few friends, and family flown in quietly for an intimate celebratory dinner at Victoria's penthouse. No cameras, no formal presentations, just soft music, candlelight, and laughter that shimmered like warm wine. Victoria formally introduced Mia as my fiancée, my equal, the woman I choose every day. Mia's heart swelled when applause rose from the small gathering, genuine and heartfelt. Speeches were made about bravery, authenticity, loving boldly. Glasses clinked, eyes moistened. When the final toast ended, Victoria stood, voice steady and filled with resonance. There are many rules in business, many expectations, but love is not one of them. Mia, thank you for loving me when I couldn't let anyone in, and for trusting me, even when the future felt dangerous. I promise to make you proud, always. Mia stepped forward, placing her hand on Victoria's wrist. I love you. I promise to stand by you, however messy, however beautiful. Their kiss gathered the echoes of every risk, every triumph. Later, alone in the night, they collapsed onto the couch, drained and elated. Victoria traced lazy shapes on Mia's arm. We're engaged, she whispered. We are, Mia said back, resting her head against Victoria's shoulder. And beneath the stars visible through the rooftop skylight, they dreamed aloud of weddings and gardens, travels and routine mornings, a lifetime forged in moments of courage. Sunday morning dawned softly, filled with the scent of fresh coffee and the promise of quiet. Mia and Victoria lay entangled in the rumpled sheets, foregrounded by a ring on each of their fingers, one from a drunken night that broke their rules, the other from a sober moment that reaffirmed their love. They shared a slow kiss, savoring the stillness before schedules and strategy sessions reclaimed their time. Victoria pressed her hand to Mia's stomach. "We need to talk wedding plans," she murmured, voice lazy with sleep. Mia smiled, tracing the gold band with her thumb. "We can decide what this looks like. No corporate gala, no massive guest list, just us." Victoria nodded, her forehead resting against Mia's. "Exactly, something real." They spent the morning crafting invitations on blush-colored cards with handwritten calligraphy, each carefully worded phrase a declaration of who they were. Partners, equals, chosen. By midday, orders had been placed. There would be an outdoor ceremony in Central Park, shaded by trees and flanked by only their closest loved ones, a ring exchange among petals and laughter. After brunch, they retreated to Victoria's study, where both their calendars lay open. "Let's build our shared schedule," Mia suggested. "When work ends, this begins," she said, drawing a thick line between professional meetings and personal time. Victoria looked at the separation and smiled. "I want boardroom clarity, then home focus." They penciled in date nights, weekend getaways, even quiet, rainy mornings at home. The exercise felt revolutionary, forging an alliance that honored both ambition and affection. That afternoon, they strolled along Museum Mile, Mia leaning into Victoria as they debated which sculpture garden to visit at their wedding reception. They laughed over spilled gelato and people watched, their rings gleaming in the sunlight. In those moments, the world felt both vast and intimate. As dusk lengthened, they returned to the penthouse to find Victoria's mother waiting quietly in the hallway. An unexpected guest sparkled with restrained emotion. Victoria ushered her in. Mia stood beside them, heart fluttering. Victoria's mother embraced her long and hard. "You've made my daughter so happy," she whispered to Mia. "Thank you." Mia felt tears prick her eyes. "I love her," she said simply, "and I will always choose her." The rest of the evening passed in warm conversation, soft music in the background, and the exchange of old family albums. It was Mia's first time being welcomed as family. Later, after her mother had left and the penthouse lights were dimmed low, Victoria kissed Mia's wrist and said, "We did good today." Mia smiled. "We did." They fell asleep entwined again, this time with more than hope, with certainty. They had built not just a relationship, but a life together, where love and leadership, risk and restraint, career and vulnerability were woven into a future that finally belonged to both of them. The morning after Victoria's mother left, the penthouse was quieter than usual, but the air shimmered with warmth. Mia stretched beside Victoria, sunlight on her face, the rings on their fingers catching light. They dressed together in soft laughter, Victoria picking Mia's tie, Mia adjusting Victoria's jacket, with a shared sense of ease that felt revolutionary after weeks of guarded glances. At breakfast, Mia looked across the table and said, "I've arranged a weekend escape." Victoria's eyes lifted, curious. "No work, no alerts, just us." Mia's pulse skipped. "A cottage by the lake north of the city. We'll pack hiking shoes and chocolate." Victoria's smile was slow and tender. "Perfect." They spent the morning preparing quietly. Mia folding clothes, Victoria packing binoculars, both stealing touches and soft smiles. Leak sensors in the apartment beeped as the cleaners entered silently, unobtrusive, a reminder their world was public, but their moments could remain sacred. On the drive north, Mia reached for Victoria's hand. They drove through autumnal trees, wind rattling windows, the world outside unfurling as theirs closed in together. In the cottage, wood smoke simmered as twilight fell. They opened wine and settled by the fireplace, the stone hearth glowing. Victoria wrapped Mia in a plaid blanket. "It's been intense," she said softly, pressing a kiss to Mia's temple. "Yes," Mia whispered back. "But this, us, feels like coming home." They spoke low and slow about hopes, writing a book, scaling the company, maybe kids someday. Victoria shared a childhood memory, sledding at 8, pure joy, falling into snowbanks, and Mia laughed until tears came. They fell back on the couch, limbs entwined. "Promise me we'll protect what we have," Mia said, voice trembling. Victoria brushed Mia's cheek. "I promise." Outside, stars blinked into the clear sky. They stood in shared silence, holding hands, feeling the world stretch beneath their feet and above their hearts. In the small bedroom later, Mia traced Victoria's collarbone as they lay beneath flannel sheets. "I'm glad we chose each other," Mia murmured. Victoria kissed her gently, whispered, "Me too." And as they drifted to sleep, in a place away from press and protocol, they didn't need vows or rings. They simply had each other, chosen again in every breath, every touch, every promise. Their love had become their sanctuary. They returned to the city hand in hand, serene beneath the fading glow of maple-lined roads, the cottage tucked behind them like a memory they carried in their hearts. Back in the penthouse, Mia opened the curtains to welcome soft morning light, and Victoria made coffee, the aroma drifting between them with gentle promise. Their smiles were quieter now, deeper, etched by trust earned, not flaunted. They sat at the breakfast table, 2 rings gleaming in unison, 2 mugs steaming side by side. Mia reached across and brushed a crumb from Victoria's lip. "Back to reality tomorrow," she murmured, voice steady, powerful. Victoria nodded, fingers circling Mia's hand. "But we go into it stronger than ever." The day flowed with purpose. In the morning's light, they met with the event planner to finalize wedding details, a simple arch in Central Park, soft petals, a friend playing guitar. No stage, no press, just them, witnesses, love as guest of honor. Mia looked at Victoria's joyful gaze and felt her chest swell. "Perfect," Victoria breathed. At noon, they attended a leadership workshop Victoria had organized for her executive team, introducing a talk on authenticity at work. She stood before her staff, and there, by her side, stood Mia. Their hands brushed twice, intentionally, defiantly. Victoria spoke about courage, connection, and choice. Mia watched her, radiant, real. The room responded with quiet admiration. Their bond, woven into every word, resonated with purpose. Afterward, they met friends for a low-key lunch at a corner cafe. Laughter folded into genuine ease. No secret stayed between them. They shared pastries, made each other coffee, and spoke of their bond with soft honesty that felt like home. A waitress passed and whispered, "You two are cute together," and both blushed, unashamed, untethered. The afternoon found them back in Victoria's study, planning both company strategy and life strategy. They drafted their vows together, short, heartfelt, raw. "I promise to choose you above all else," Mia penned. "I vow to protect our love with courage," Victoria added. They paused, reading each other's words, crying soft, resilient. Evening came, and with it a private rehearsal. They walked through Central Park under lantern glow and city hush, exchanging whispered vows. Their voices trembled, unguarded, as they spoke promises only hearts can feel. They embraced deeper than ever. That night, in bed, they lay entwined, the world outside busy, their future unfolding. Victoria touched Mia's face. "I've never been more myself than with you," she whispered. Mia pressed her lips to Victoria's palm. "And I've never been more alive." They closed their eyes together, knowing they were ready for tomorrow's celebration, ready for a life defined by love, courage, and choosing each other every single day. The morning of their wedding dawned like a promise made real. Victoria and Mia woke entwined beneath pale sunlight filtering through Central Park-facing windows, hearts beating in gentle synchronicity as if the world itself held its breath. Their wedding day wasn't lavish. There would be no grand ballroom or society photographers. Just an intimate ceremony under an arch of white blossoms in a quiet meadow, surrounded only by their closest loved ones, their vows whispered into the breeze. They dressed in soft, meaningful garments, Mia in a flowing ivory lace dress that fell around her like a promise, Victoria in tailored cream silk that mirrored the petals above. Their rings caught the morning's glow as they helped each other with final touches, Mia tucking a strand of hair behind Victoria's ear, Victoria adjusting Mia's bouquet of wildflowers. As they stepped into the park, guests gathered, family and friends whose presence had woven warmth into their journey. Victoria's mother stood to one side, tears shining in her eyes. Mia's dearest roommate and two close colleagues bowed their heads in respectful joy. The city beyond hummed quietly, skyscrapers framing the green canopy as though blessing this act of love. They stood beneath the arch, soft grass underfoot, heartbeats loud in their chests. Victoria's voice trembled slightly as she began. "Mia, you entered my life in the most unexpected way, in a moment of chaos, of chance, of missteps made beautiful. You reminded me that vulnerability is strength, that love is worth the risk." Mia looked back, eyes glistening, and took Victoria's hand. "Victoria, from the moment I put that ring on, I knew there was something destined here. You taught me that being seen is not weakness but truth, and I choose truth with you, always." They smiled through tears as they exchanged simple vows crafted over countless shared nights and fearless conversations. "I choose you," Victoria said. "Ever and always." "I choose you," Mia echoed. "Every day, every challenge, every sunrise." They sealed their promises with a kiss, soft, sure, with petals drifting around them like snow. Afterward, they walked down a petal-scattered aisle into an embrace of applause, laughter, and heartfelt congratulations. There were no speeches, no formal toasts, just the gentle clinking of champagne flutes and warm expressions of support. Guests mingled. Mia and Victoria moved together as one, radiant and unguarded. The afternoon was spent wandering the park, hand in hand, exchanging smiles that spoke volumes, pausing to share a first dance on the grass, echoing laughter and gentle tears beneath trees. They ate small bites of cake shared from a local bakery, fed to each other with teasing smiles. When night fell, they packed quietly and returned to the penthouse where their life truly lived, away from announcements and cameras, in the soft glow of home. At home, they lit candles and opened wine. Each touched the other with the ease of years lived, not days spent. They talked late into the night about marriage, about how they would continue to work together, how they'd build a foundation grounded in love, respect, and shared ambition. Finally, they slipped between sheets as partners, as lovers, as equals, fingers intertwined, whispers soft, hearts certain. Before sleep, Victoria pressed her lips to Mia's forehead. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for teaching me what really matters." Mia wrapped her arms around her. "Thank you for choosing love." In the quiet aftermath of their wedding day, they slept, two souls wrapped in vows that were both delicate and unbreakable. Tomorrow would bring meetings and milestones, but tonight they lived only in the promise of forever. Two women who had found each other in chaos, fought for visibility, and now stood unafraid, side by side, ready to build a life where love and power, vulnerability and ambition could coexist, beautifully, boldly, together. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, try clicking the thanks button below. It's the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you.